everybody. Welcome to the Hallmark Aftershow Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Will Carey. Joining me is the eternal ray of sunshine, the endless beacon of optimism, the path through the grass of festive holiday joy, the star on my tree, the
showering
match
joy.
the match to my menorah, as I saw recently. My wife, Chelsea Connor. Hello, dear. How are you?
I am the match to your non-Jewish menorah.
Exactly. You know, we didn't start
just
the
a
fire.
candelabra,
It was
honey,
only
for you.
but it's blue and white, so that makes it. It's tis the season. Candelabra.
Yes, and we are coming up real quick on Hanukkah.
sure
I feel like
are.
this whole holiday season is passing us by in the blink of an eye, as they say.
Yeah, which is why I feel like, especially, I'm really kind of clinging to our programming and our podcast for some
Stability
for
in
some
our lives.
season.
We have a lot of
Yes.
stuff going on in our lives, listeners. We have work travel. We have family. Family, which is just a lot on its face.
A lot all the time, always.
We have some friends that are going through some challenging times that need our help in bringing some holiday joy to them, which we, as you know, as listeners, are experts at on this podcast.
Yes, I have been preparing my whole life of watching Christmas specials and holiday movies for the opportunity where I would be called upon to save Christmas.
And you were.
And it's here.
Today.
It is happening.
We're going to vomit Christmas upon a family that is just having a lot of going on at the moment. And, they were very thankful when I offered this, and I sort of said, no, like, you're actually helping us bring some joy to our own lives. Like, this is actually, you're doing us a favor, right? Because we aren't fully decorating this year, because Will and I are going on a very long, amazing, incredible honeymoon journey.
Indeed. An odyssey.
From Christmas onward. We may never come back.
I know, it's tempting.
But, I think, anyway, it's going to give us an opportunity to do some like old school Christmas crafts with a kid. It might give us the opportunity to decorate a tree, which we weren't going to get this year. And speaking of trees, we got the most awesome opportunity this week. Somebody
oh my gosh,
reached out to us and asked us to review not a movie, but a book.
Yes, folks, you are listening to a very special episode of the Hallmark Aftershow Podcast, book edition. And we have our first guest ever on this podcast.
It's awesome. This was awesome. We had a publisher reach out to us who'd published a children's book about a very special Christmas tree that needed a special home for Christmas.
Yes.
And we read the book, and we were thrilled to have the author on. So today you're going to listen to a chat with the author. But before we get into that, one of the things that we talked about was like, what really brings a tree to life? What makes it special in your home? What brings that like spark of holiday joy? And you'll listen in our interview, but there was this great moment where we all like concretely agreed that multicolored Christmas lights is where it's at. So
100%. So
if you are anti-multicolored Christmas lights, you've picked the wrong podcast today to listen to. But it was a very sweet moment. And I really enjoyed chatting with our author. Tell us a little bit about him, Will.
Absolutely. So our author's name is Richard Wagner. And we are discussing his children's book, Needles, the Forgotten Christmas Tree. And this is his debut work. Rich is a guy who has, had an entire life of a professional career. And at this point, he has had this idea for this cute little, I'm going to say like emotionally, like it pulled at the heartstrings for me, kids book. He's had this idea for a long time. And like so many of us, you have a great idea, and then he finally was able to make it happen.
He launched it into the world.
And we are going to talk about the creation of the story, the inspiration behind it, and some holiday merriment and how one goes upon publishing a children's book.
And one thing that we do talk about very briefly, but I know this is an audio podcast, but one of the things that was really special about this book was the illustrations. So I highly encourage you to check it out. We're going to put a link to it in the show notes for this podcast. But both Will and I grew up in a time where children's illustrations were a lot more realistic to real life. And I think that this book offers that in terms of its illustrations and was just done really beautifully. And so you should check it out because you can really like feel Needle's emotions. That's the name of the tree, the forgotten tree. You can feel his emotions, through the page because he's, his needles are up when he's happy and down when he's sad. And it's just really, really sweet.
Oh yes, the illustrator Sydney Kruger did an amazing job. Her art style just really took me back to reading like books like this when I was a kid. Like they're almost like little mini paintings each page. It's quite spectacular.
Beautiful. And it looks like
really,
watercolor
really nice.
pencil. I'm not sure quite what to call it, but it's lovely.
Yes, really takes you back. And we're gonna share our chat that we had with the author Richard Wagner with you now, and then we'll talk afterwards.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
This because I was saying before we got on here, typically on our show when we're talking about the Hallmark movies, we're very, very critical, but your book is very sweet and
It's
enjoyable.
lovely. We loved it.
Oh, thank you.
So what I was most curious about, like when we were doing our research before we got on here, it seems like this has been an idea that's kind of brewing for a long time. When did you first get the gumption to like, you know what, I'm gonna write this cute little kids book?
I've had the thought in my mind probably for about 40 years,
Wow.
I'm going to guess. But I finally got the gumption to actually sit down and write it about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's based on a true story of something that happened to me about a little tree that was delivered to our house when I was about 14 years old, and we already had a tree.
Yeah.
It was all decorated. And so this little tree sat out there, and we were trying to find somebody to take it, and nobody would take it. And it sat out there the whole holidays. And I always felt sorry for that little tree. I used to leave for school every morning and see it sitting there. And I just thought, God, I just felt so sorry for it. And for some reason, I never forgot about it. And I kept thinking over the years, I really wanted to write a story about the tree, albeit with a happier ending. And so finally, about 5 or 6 years ago, I think I was sitting around one day and I just said, doggone it, I'm going to write this. And I sat down and I wrote the basic story probably in about 2 hours. And then, over time, I refined it. But that's kind of what happened. And the interesting thing about it is that it didn't start out as a story about hopes, dreams, desires, and never giving up. That just evolved. And towards the end, I saw this whole thing sitting there staring me in the face, and I thought, wow, I think this kind of works. And that's kind of what happened.
Amazing. I feel like thematically, like I really felt for Needles when I was reading it, like as the sort of like scrappy underdog tree, because I have so much experience like going and looking for Christmas trees, and I've always remember being a kid and wondering about the like less than perfect or the unwanted ones. So like I really related to this tree.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing that you've done here, actually. So this is a bit of a digression, but growing up, I grew up in New York City, and I vividly remember the tree that we got right after September 11th, and it was not the biggest, fluffiest tree, but it meant a lot to our family because, we were trying to sort of stitch together a happy time in the wake of a tragedy. And so I think like Needles was that tree, but I always think about right after Christmas, all the trees on the stoops in New York where they're sort of there and undecorated, and maybe there's like an errant tinsel or like a couple lights left on it, and they just look so sad. So that's what reminded me of Needles. I really loved him.
Yeah, you kind of sometimes go to the Christmas tree lot, and you see that one little tree sitting over there, and you kind of go, oh, I wonder if anybody's ever going to buy that one.
Right. There's like a lot of Needles like looking for somebody who really needs them, which plays out beautifully in this story. Is this and is have you ever done any kind of like short form fiction writing prior to this, or was this your like first attempt at like creative writing?
Just in school
Uh-huh.
growing up, and I was always pretty good at it. And I don't mean that in a big-headed way. I always just enjoyed it. I took a lot of English classes. I took a lot of literature classes, a lot of writing classes. I had some very good
Mhm.
teachers in high school. And yeah, I used to like to write, but it's I just never did
Hmm.
anything with it. But I had very good, I think I just had very good teachers growing up in elementary school. I really learned how to write and spell. And then in high school and college, I did a lot of writing for term papers and
Hmm.
things like that. And so when I got out into the business world, I always had secretaries and other people I worked with that would say, "Wow, you're a
Mhm.
really good writer." And I was like, "Oh, well, okay."
So you have two kids of your own. I mean, in part, did you write this for them, and maybe you've got grandchildren coming your way soon?
Well, I think I'm a long ways away from grandchildren still. I've got boy
Wow.
girl
Wow.
twins. They will be 25
Wow.
next month, and they're both about a year out of
Mhm.
college, year and
Mhm.
a half out of college, and both working, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We know we
uh,
graduated in the 2008 recession, so we feel that particular pain.
there you go, there you go. So they're and
Mhm.
they love the story. So in fact, they urged me to write it. I talked
Oh, that's
about it for
Uh-huh.
sweet.
years, and they and my wife urged me to write this, and so finally I did.
So when you go to
That's
your
what
Christmas tree
happened.
lot, like what kind of tree are you looking for? Are you looking for needles? Or are you looking for, are you a big round fluffy tree? Are you a tall, like pointy skinny tree? Like what kind of tree are you looking for?
Well, my wife kind of drives
Uh-huh.
that one. It has to be a
Okay.
noble fir.
Okay.
Very specific.
I didn't grow up with nobles. We grew up with sort of the traditional, I
Yeah,
don't know what,
Douglas or
Douglas
balsams.
fir or whatever
Yeah.
they're.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my wife said she always had a noble, and they're beautiful trees, and so that's what we always
So
kind
you're
of
like
wind
perfectly
up with.
symmetrical tree.
And yeah, and we usually get about an
Mhm.
8 foot
Hmm.
tree. Um, and we have a conglomeration of ornaments we put on the tree from when I grew up, she grew up, and then
Mhm.
us together. In fact, we've got so many now that I think she kind of picks and chooses each Christmas, doing
Maybe
a
you
little
need a
different
second tree then.
different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny. In our previous house, we did have like two trees, and so she was able to get a lot of
Uh-huh.
stuff on them.
Here, while we're on the subject of Christmas trees, this got me thinking. This is hotly debated in our household. Uh, when it comes to Christmas tree lights, multicolored lights or all white lights. I
Ah,
know it is a
I'm a
Yes,
multicolored
team
same,
guy.
multicolor.
same. We feel the same way.
My wife really
Oh.
likes
Uh-huh.
white, and the last couple of years
Oh.
she's done
I
Oh.
multicolored.
see.
I'm
I
happy you've
see.
won that
So,
battle. My brother lost
yeah.
that battle to his wife years ago, and and they've never
Yeah.
looked back. But he looks longingly at our tree every year, thinking maybe this will be the year.
Yeah, because there's just something about like uh there's something about a multicolored lights on tree, especially like when you turn off all the other lights in the room and it's dark and it's like Christmas Eve, like the presents are out.
I
To me,
agree.
that is like Christmas. Takes me right back to like watching like TV specials from the 90s.
Well, it's the same on the outside of the house. I put up multicolored
Yeah,
lights. That's what I grew up
Uh-huh.
with. That's what I did. I don't
it's
Yeah,
know.
what the
Just
people want.
yeah. Yeah, oh no,
yeah.
absolutely. There's just something like inherent so festive about it. So let me ask you. So you write the story, and then when it comes to getting it published, what did that process look like? You have this lovely little story. What happens after it gets written?
Well, I wrote the story, and then of course I sat around for a long time, going online, researching, asking lots of people like, how do you publish a
Mhm.
book, and who do you go with?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? And I uh, I was really struggling with that. And one day I got in the mail a book from a friend of mine who I did business with for a number of years. He was for 25 years, was the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he wrote a book about
Oh,
his
wow.
experience being the general manager in the World Series and all of that. Very well known, very famous guy. And he wrote this book and he sent me a copy. And so I immediately called him up and I said, okay, I wrote this story. What do I do? Who'd you go with here? And he told me Mascot Books. And he immediately called the CEO of
Oh,
Mascot
wow.
and had him call me. And I just decided, well, I got at least one reference here. Let's go. So that's what I did. And so, they took the story and they edited it and refined it a little, changed a few words. One of the things you want to make sure is it's really a children's book, so you want to make sure the wording is so that children will understand it. It's not overly sophisticated. And I tried to do that, and they changed a few more words, but they didn't really change the
Mm-hmm.
story at all. And the hardest part, though, of this whole process of publishing the book was finding an
I was going to
illustrator.
just ask you about that. I was going to say the illustrations are beautiful, especially the
Yeah.
tree from the window for
Well,
sure.
thank
It's a
you.
lovely scene.
Well, it what I wanted was I didn't want a cartoonish character. I wanted a nice tree, and I wanted sort of an elegant book with lots of colors. And um, I must have gone through 25
Wow.
illustrators,
Wow.
giving me examples and that kind of thing, until finally Sydney Kruger sent me some drawings, and I just went, "Whoa, okay, this could work." So I asked her to refine a couple of things and see what she could do. And the big part was having a tree that was a tree and an illustrator that could show emotion
Right.
on a
Without a
Right.
tree.
cartoon face,
How do you
that's
do
not
that?
what you were looking for.
Yeah. And so, uplifted branches when it's happy, I guess, droopy
Mhm.
when it's sad, kind of a darkness when it's kind of a
Mhm.
dark time, bright when it's happy. So anyway, uh, she
Yeah,
kind of
she
nailed
did
it.
an incredible job.
And
There's just a real inherent whimsy to her work that I think really again reminds me of being a kid and reading books like that 100%.
Yeah, I think our generation. Sorry,
well,
go ahead.
and some of the, go
I
ahead,
was gonna say, I think our
go ahead, no,
generation
go
was the
ahead.
last to get actually illustrated books. I read books to our niece and nephews now, and they're so cartoonish, and they don't really give you that feeling of the real world. And this
Yes.
really did that. So congrats.
Yeah, well, thank you. She really did well, I think, especially things like when the tree's standing out there on the
Hmm.
corner all by
Yeah.
itself, and you're just sitting there realizing where this tree is, and then the car's coming along. And
Hmm.
she did that. I didn't tell her, here, draw it this way or draw it that way. She obviously read the story and really understood the emotions through it, and was able to actually put those drawings together. Other than maybe a few little color changes or something, I did nothing with respect to the
So you
drawings.
you said that this book has a happier ending than the one in real life. Tell us a little about Emily and her character and how you picked her and all of that.
It's funny that just kind of happened. I didn't set out to to I didn't set out
Hmm.
knowing
Mm-hmm.
Emily, and I didn't set out wanting to depict or showcase a handicapped
Hmm.
individual. But as I was writing, I started to realize, in certain ways, uh, Needles is
Hmm. Hmm.
handicapped. He's
Yeah.
challenged with respect to the rest of the
Hmm.
Christmas tree world. And I kind of realized that it just sort of happened that how do I need somebody looking for a Christmas tree, and somebody that maybe has other issues, maybe can't
Hmm.
afford a
Mm-hmm.
tree. And it just sort of flowed into Emily. And and the part that started staring me in the face towards the end was, here's two handicapped entities that are each giving all that they have to each other and making each other very happy. And she thinks Needles is beautiful, and he thinks she's beautiful. And it just, and to me, then, as I was writing that, I went, isn't that kind of what
Mhm.
Christmas is all
Mhm.
about in a way?
No, I
The joy of giving, and the glory of Christmas. I mean, it was just sort of wow. It just sort of
Yeah.
no,
popped
yeah,
to me anyway.
that sort of feeling, it's sort of a feeling of like two entities who are probably maybe discounted or forgotten by the greater community as a whole, like finding each other and bringing each other joy, and like those very simple kind of pleasures around the holidays that maybe get taken for granted, or you don't think about them until like they're not there. So I was quite touched by by that part of the book.
Mhm.
Well, and then it's also the never giving up aspect of the story, and to me, that was the biggest lesson in the book. You know that we all must persevere through
Hmm.
adversity in life, and everybody has hopes, dreams. The question is, are you able to persevere, to keep going, to never give up, and no matter what happens. And we all learn that in different way. I think some people, I'm not sure, are learning it today, but I think we
Hmm.
all through some way learn that throughout our lives. Sports is a big
Mhm.
Yes.
teacher of that. Um, but for those that don't do sports, it can be other things as well. But that's
Oh,
important,
absolutely. We both are like I very much have like careers in the performing arts and related fields, and Chelsea was a stage manager for a number of years and then
Mhm.
a producer for a number of years. So we very much are familiar with the concept of, in order to get somewhere or to achieve a goal, you have to just never give up in the face of being passed over a lot. So there's that. I
right?
feel like that theme rings particularly true, and I feel like in the context of A Christmas Story is inherently more poignant. Absolutely.
I agree. I think you're right.
So back to tree decorating, because that's what I love talking about the most.
Yes,
So tell
she
us
loves Christmas
about.
tree
We
decorating.
saw in your bio that you
Yeah.
travel a bit. We travel a lot, and we collect ornaments from all over the world. Tell us about some of your ornaments. You said some are from your wife's childhood, some are from yours, some are from your kids and together. Like some of your favorite ornaments. What are some of those? I can tell you mine if that would help give you a minute to think.
Oh no. Well, the one that has to be on the tree every year for me is one that's been on there since I was in about the
Mhm.
fourth or fifth grade. And it's just a Santa Claus with a beard and a long hat, and it hangs
Ah.
on his hat. And it's kind of stupid, it's kind of dumb, but it without that one on the tree, it just isn't a tree for
Sure, sure.
me. And then my mom had these little red reindeer that she
Oh.
used to put on the
Hmm.
tree every year. And uh, we eventually, my sister and I
Mhm.
split those. So I've got a couple, she's got a couple. So those go on the tree. And then there's lots of ornaments we have that really that my wife and I over 31 years of marriage have accumulated, and a lot of them have to
Mhm.
do with
Mhm.
something
Hmm.
we did. And it's just events we attended, or something that happened in our life, like maybe we went on a ski trip up to say
Mhm.
Banff in Canada, and we have a little ornament that's from there, and we
Mhm.
have that on the tree, and it's just little things that remind us of places we've been and things we've done together. And same with the kids, little things like, my son was a quarterback, so we have like a little football, and my daughter rode horses. She did equestrian. We have little horses, and things like that. So it's kind
Yeah,
of
for
fun.
sure. I totally get that. My dad's Catholic, my mother's Jewish. And so my dad gave each of us an ornament every year growing up. And so one of my favorite ones was when I was about 6 or 7. I wish I could remember, but I was into ice skating. And it's a little mouse that's ice skating. And she's holding a
Yeah.
toy mouse that's also ice skating. And it's my
Hmm.
absolute favorite ornament of all time. And every time I put it on the tree, I smile. But it's interesting because just to circle back to your book, but I think we don't think about the tree as being the special thing. We think about the ornaments, but you're absolutely right in that like each tree's got its own life for the year. And so we've started naming our trees every year, trying to
Yeah.
Oh,
personify
that's
them.
funny.
But I think that's what your story reminds us of, is that the tree is really the main part. We're just decorating it. But I think we've got so many decorations. We're just,
Hmm.
it's all about the decorations for us. But I think absolutely right. And your story definitely tells that.
One
Well, and I think decorations are just part of the
Mm-hmm.
celebration. It's way people celebrate. Having decorations and making it festive and just having that feeling. I mean, we have the tree. My wife just does an unbelievable job decorating the house, and she does all the inside. I'm in charge of the outside,
Hmm.
but we love
Oh,
the season. So
absolutely.
it's
My
fun.
stepmom and her house has like an entire corner dedicated to Santa. Like we live in New York now, but I'm from Southern Maryland. So it's like tons of antique shops and every kind of little figurine you can think of are all in this corner in this display case. And every time I'm there, I'm just like, tis the season.
Always doesn't matter. It could be July.
Well, it's interesting too that you were in like a split household,
Mhm.
Chelsea, because I dated a girl in college whose mother was
Mhm.
Irish
Oh, it's
Catholic
the
and father
opposite
was
for me.
Jewish, and she got the best of both
Oh,
worlds.
it's
Let me tell
great.
you, it was very very
Yeah.
interesting,
In fact, our,
very
our
interesting.
Christmas brunch is like a little column A, column B. We do bagels and lox and cream cheese, and then also bacon and eggs. And so it's really all in, and it's really
That's
awesome. And
cool.
we do enjoy it. We've definitely got like Hanukkah ornaments on the tree now too. But it's funny. My mom
That's
always
neat.
says, leave the
Yeah.
lights to me. We know about the lights. And so she does the lights and we do the decorating. But it's a really fun experience having best of both worlds, and who can say no to fried potatoes? I mean, really.
Oh, you just can't.
Sure.
They're delicious, and the tradition we have in our house around this time of year is the latke blowout, where you make enough latkes for 8 nights and you eat them in one.
Yeah.
It's a great. I I look forward to it every year. I look forward to it as a challenge, Rich, a goal that must be met. Got stats to meet.
Yeah. You got to
Yeah.
Yeah,
train for that,
exactly.
don't you? Yeah.
Little box card score. I wanted to. I also wanted to ask you this as a Southern California guy. Um, what does how does California get into the season if you don't have like snow and cold weather to like really like
Yeah,
help?
poor you guys at the beautiful 70 degrees all year round.
It having grown up here, I just never
Mhm.
thought about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, it gets cold. It's not freezing out. I mean, we might have a few days during the winters where it gets down into the low 30s or
Hmm.
something like that. Maybe some frost on the ground, but that's few and far between. Usually it's probably in the
Right.
40s. So you're right. We don't get a lot of that, but you bring that up, and it's interesting because um, I got a couple of stories on this. One is when I was 4 years old, my dad was transferred
Mhm.
to Detroit, and we lived in a suburb just outside Detroit. And I guess it was one of the worst winters
Uh
on
huh.
Wow.
record back there. And I still remember waking up in the morning and going downstairs, and the snow was almost to
Mhm.
the top of the front door.
Wow.
And and of course, I'm at 4 years old. My dad's traveling, and my mom has me out there digging out
Putting you
the
to work.
walkway,
Right.
like that happened. Um, but I remember my dad got back, and they were sitting watching the Rose
Uh-huh.
Parade because we had moved from Pasadena back to Detroit, and they're watching the Rose Parade, and they're looking at each other, going, "What are we doing here? We got to go back." And sure enough, we moved back to Pasadena
Couldn't
the
handle the
following year,
snow.
and because my dad was from
Uh-huh.
Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and when he got to California, he just said, "This
Yeah.
is fantastic." My mom grew up on a huge cattle ranch in Arizona, so she could
Hmm.
go either way. But um, yeah, that's kind of how we ended up staying there. But what's really funny is that once we had our kids, we built a home in the mountains
Mhm.
above LA, up above in
Mhm.
an area
Uh huh.
called Big Bear, and we we built a home up there. And the very first Christmas, we decided after it was built, the very first Christmas after it was built, we decided to go up there for Christmas. And Christmas Eve, the kids go to bed, and my wife and I are sitting in the living room about 11 at night, and it
Ah,
starts to snow.
amazing.
Amazing.
And when my kids got up the next morning, There were 3 feet of
Wow.
snow.
That's the ultimate Christmas present, I think.
And that's the ultimate Christmas. And they came out and they just were like in awe. And they were probably 3 or 4
Wow.
years old at the time, maybe three and a
Uh-huh.
half, 4. And of course, back at that age, Christmas is
Oh,
just
yeah.
huge. And all of a sudden, you have all this snow. And what was weird was for about the next 8 years in a row, I think at least 7 of them were white Christmases
Oh, okay, so they did get a
out
white
there.
Christmas. That's what I was worried about.
So we did experience that. Yeah, we did experience
That's
that.
great. Well, especially that area, like Big Bear is just so beautiful. Like I love that area. You have like the ocean on one side and the mountains. It's just truly like awe-inspiring, like natural beauty in that area of California.
Oh, well, growing up, we used to go ski on Saturday and come back and go to the
Wow.
beach on Sunday.
What a life.
I
Yeah,
the West Coast is forever tempting
yeah,
with its combination of
yeah.
great outdoor activities.
I'm serious. I can't tell you how many times I think one time we even went up and skied Saturday and came back down and went sailing that
Wow.
afternoon or something. It was we used to do that all the time. It was, and we used to actually look at it and go, "Can you
Yeah.
believe we do this? I mean, this is a pretty amazing
I
place
will
to be
say
able
in
to
the
do
past couple
this,
years,
you know?"
Will and I have been out to California like once a year or so, and every time we're like, do we need to go back? We need to go back, don't we? It can't be this nice all the time. I think like what makes New Yorkers really New Yorkers is that it's tough, we'll get soft out there.
Yeah, you guys are tough, man.
Oh yeah, it's just
Yeah, I hope you don't feel bad. It was 80 here
Oh,
oh
last
cry me
week.
a river.
the
We're
hardships.
actually San Diego bound in about a week, so we're looking forward to the nice weather ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So
That's
definitely
great.
looking forward to that. That'll pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I don't know what else you might want to chat about. We've loved having you on and talking about your book. If there's anything last thoughts that you might want to share with some of our listeners.
Well, you can buy it on Amazon,
Yep.
Barnes and Noble. You can buy it at mascotbooks.com, and you can also get it on my website, which is
Amazing. We'll be sure
needlesthechristmastree.com.
to put that in the show notes for everybody so they can just click on the link and go and buy it for their kids. It was lovely. It
Yeah,
was really a sweet book.
Yes, it most certainly
well,
it
thanks
most
so much.
certainly was. And folks, get a good holiday read in at the description. And Rich, this has been really nice getting to chat with you. Thank you so much for wanting to do the show.
Will, Chelsea, I've really enjoyed it. It's
Anytime.
been fun.
We'll talk to you soon.
Really been fun.
All right, that was Richard Wagner,
So
author
much
of
fun.
Needles, The Forgotten Christmas Tree.
I love needles.
I know.
Can we bring needles home this year?
I would love to bring needles home this year. I would love to have a little tiny needles just hanging out.
I know Will's definition of a tiny tree and my definition of a tiny tree differ by about 4 feet.
No, I'm picturing like something that could sit on top of a table.
And I'm
then,
thinking of a bottle brush tree, if listeners are aware of what that is.
what is a bottle brush tree?
Do you know like a brush that you use to clean a bottle with?
Yes.
It's like a pipe clean. It's like a giant pipe cleaner.
Uh-huh.
So they make these trees. They're called bottle brush trees where they like taper the end of it. So it looks like a tree, but it's made out of a bottle brush.
Oh.
They're famous
see.
world over, I think. They're a little
okay.
decorative. They're probably like, they range probably from anywhere from like 2 inches to like, I don't know, maybe get a 12-incher in there.
Ooh.
I've never seen a super giant one because they
Can
have
you hang
certain
ornaments on it?
No, I mean maybe tiny ones. If, like maybe you could glue on pom-pom ornaments, maybe.
I see. Because they do make like semi-permanent, like they almost look like jewelry hangers, but you could put ornaments on them.
Yeah, this is not that. This is like a pipe cleaner. A pipe cleaner is not going to hold something heavy. I guess you could try to stick a paper ornament on it. Maybe?
Sure. Yeah, it would be more crafty as opposed to like functional.
Anyway, Needles
tree.
deserves much more than we can provide him this year, and next year we'll bring home our own Needles.
Absolutely. Needles needs all of the love, all of the friendship.
Needles needs a home. Start the hashtag going.
Hashtag Needles needs a home. And folks, if you want to check out this book for yourself, link is in the show notes. You can pick up your copy today on Ridge's website, or you can also get it on Amazon as well.
We had so much fun having a live guest. I would also say, if you are doing holiday centric things like writing books,
Yeah.
plays, even.
Short
maybe
stories.
there's like holiday art, holiday short movies, things like that you'd love for us to chat about and review. I mean, clearly we are much more friendly and supportive of those who reach out to us, but also who create adorable, sweet things that are not the Hallmark movies. So don't be afraid. This was a lovely, adorable interview, and we would do the same for you.
Most assuredly,
so if
we would.
you've
Yes.
got a holiday thing, let us know. We'd love to have you on the show. Or if you want to talk about the Hallmark movies, I think we might open it up. You know, this started a revolution with Rich, and I think
Yeah,
this
we could
podcast
get a nice.
is now open for business, open for visitors.
Yeah, exactly. Guest chair is open. Let's bring in somebody. You know who I would love to get on here if we could. If we could.
Yeah.
My favorite professional wrestler from when I was a kid, Mick Foley,
Yeah.
is on the record as being a fan of the Hallmark movies.
Hmm.
And this is the guy that got thrown off a steel cage by the Undertaker in '98.
That's very
So
specific.
He has an entire room dedicated to Christmas year round.
So if
in
you're
his house.
listening and you want to be on the podcast, come on down.
Yes, if anybody watches Hallmark movies and knows Mick Foley, send him my way at WillCarey23 on Instagram.
At Chelsea Connor.
And let's talk some Hallmark movies with our new growing friends from around the world.
We'll be back with our old school. Now, at this point, I can say that our old school movie reviews really soon. And we'll see y'all first. But let's do some singing, because that's the best part of this podcast, when we sing you out.
Yes, let's do it. La 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 la.
Ba-doom, 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 ba-doom.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Rich.
Hashtag home for needles.